sure? Okay, all right, question 4. I think in some areas, huge companies like Baidu have a huge advantage. For example, training the best speech recognition systems today takes 50,000 hours of data. Training the best face recognition systems today takes over 200 million images. And Baidu's access to this scale of data gives Baidu a huge advantage. Baidu's access to this scale of data, together with big companies' access to supercomputers, gives companies like Baidu a huge advantage. Having said that, I think that there are new vertical areas, maybe certain types of medical imaging, maybe other narrow applications where there isn't that much data in the entire world, and I think their small startups can be viable. One of the challenges of working in a small startup is actually access to AI technology. Today's best AI technology often takes a team and infrastructure to build. So one of the ways that I hope startups can survive for these new verticals that are coming up is if they use the AI technology, is if they have access to Baidu's AI technology, which we have opened up to the world, so that they can leverage, so that Baidu can also play a role in supporting these startups to grow up to be huge companies in the future. What do you think?
So should I pause for a sec? Okay.
Oh, I can keep talking.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, wait, you're
It's recording.
Okay, great. Question 5. Today, both academia and corporations play important roles in advancing research. Great research is being done in large companies like Baidu and others, and great research also continues to be done in universities. There are certain problems that are easier to do in a big company projects that require access to a huge amount of data and a huge amount of computation. But increasingly, universities and companies are also working together. I think that one other shift that has changed recently is that big companies are now creating AI talent, possibly at a greater scale than even universities are. Because there's such a massive talent shortage, companies like Baidu invest very, very heavily in employee development. So this is why at Baidu there are tons of classes on deep learning, computer vision, NLP, speech recognition, and we routinely train huge numbers of employees to become good at this. In fact, Baidu's Silicon Valley office has been gaining a reputation as being where Silicon Valley goes to learn AI. So I think this is a very promising development in which companies, in addition to universities, can help create more AI talent to help us all do this exciting work that's ahead of us. Let's see. Question 8. Boy, yeah. What did I say in the article? Cross-functional skills, is it?
If you don't want to answer these questions, then we okay to skip.
Sure. Sure. You know, with the rise of AI, I think companies are rethinking how to organize their, how to structure their org charts in order to take advantage of this new capability. More and more companies are hiring a senior AI leader, let's call them a chief AI officer, to help them build up an AI function. I think for someone to play this role effectively, they have to have a good knowledge of AI from a technology perspective, but maybe equally important is their ability to think cross-functionally so that they can understand how AI works not just as a technology, but how it can fit into the bigger business, whether from a product, business development, marketing, or marketing point of view, or other point of view. Question 9. Let's see. Yeah. Boy, every time that humanity created a brand new technology, it was always up to us as humans to decide what to do with it. at Baidu would make the analogy that AI is the new electricity. Just like electricity 100 years ago revolutionized industry after industry, communications, transportation, agriculture, and many more, I think AI will now do the same. But ultimately, it is up to us, people, to decide whether to use this for good or for evil. Electricity has brought tremendous good to society. It can also be used to shock and kill people. AI will bring tremendous good to society. One of the things that makes me confident about the future of AI is that in the end, is people like you, the reader of this article, and like me, making these decisions. And I find that most people are good and want to make the world a better place. So long as there are more of us around, I'm very confident that AI will be to the betterment of humanity. What do you think?
Great.
Let's see, question 10. Boy.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Yes, I had started programming neural networks when I was 16. I was living in Singapore, and my father, a doctor, was interested in applying AI to healthcare. So I was fortunate to have some books on AI back then, and started learning about AI when I was very young, actually when I was about 12. And then when I was 16, I was fortunate to do an internship at the National University of Singapore, where I got to do research on neural networks, and even wrote a small research paper with the professors. It wasn't a very good research paper, so I don't recommend you read it. But since then, I've been fascinated by neural networks and their ability to learn from data. Question 11.
If you don't want to say it, you can just skip it.
Actually, it's okay. One thing I could try to say something. Let's see. In the case of self-driving, with the rise of self-driving cars, I think that regulations for how cars work worldwide should change in order to adapt to this new world that will be much better with computers driving us around rather than people. I think it's clear that self-driving cars will someday save thousands of lives every day. But regulations for driving today were written just for humans. And if these regulations can be thoughtfully redesigned to accommodate the strengths and weaknesses of both human drivers and the strengths and weaknesses of robot drivers, we will be able to make self-driving cars a reality much sooner. When car accidents kill 3,000 people a day, I think we actually have a moral imperative to make self-driving cars a reality sooner, because each day of delay is another 3,000 persons' lives lost. Alright, question 12. Not sure I totally understand this question, actually.
No, if you don't, you can just skip it.
Okay. Actually, let me say some stuff. It might be answering. Despite all, let's see. There's been a lot of excitement about AI, and rightfully so. It turns out that almost all the value of almost all the recent rise in value of AI is due to one idea called supervised learning. And what that means is learning usually quite simple mappings from some input to some response, such as inputting an email, that's the input, and the response you want is tell me if this is a spam email, or the input might be a picture, and the response is the identity of the person in this picture. This technique is called supervised learning, and it requires that the machine learn from a lot of data. In the case of recognizing pictures, in the case of recognizing emails, we need a lot of examples of email and what's spam and what isn't spam. So clearly, human intelligence can do much more than learning these simple input to response mappings. So AI today is very far from all the amazing things that the human brain can do. Having said that, supervised learning by itself will be enough to transform industry after industry. For example, if the input is the information from a loan application, and the response is, I want to estimate, will this person repay the loan on time, then this can be sufficient to transform the consumer loan industry. Or if the input is a user search query and a web page, and the output is actually let me forget that example. What's not a good example? Or if the input is an audio clip and the output is a transcription, that's speech recognition, and this will transform the way humans and machines interact. So even though AI today is very limited, the technology we have today already gives us a relatively clear path to transforming multiple industries. And of course, if there are additional AI breakthroughs in the future, with new types of AI becoming more and more useful, then that will open up even more opportunities for everyone. There's recently been a lot of, deep reinforcement learning is one of the areas that is getting a lot of attention in academia. I think that deep reinforcement learning is still in the early phases. The Achilles heel, you know what that means? Or the biggest challenge with using deep reinforcement learning is that it requires a lot of data. Supervised learning already needs a lot of data, and reinforcement learning looks like it needs even more. What that means is that if your goal is to play video games, or if your goal is to play games, then you can get a huge amount of data because you keep playing the video game on and on and on and get an almost infinite amount of data. So deep reinforcement learning works very well for playing games. There is a little bit of work, mostly from UC Berkeley, showing these ideas, mostly from Peter Abiel's group at UC Berkeley, showing these ideas being successfully applied to some robotic tasks. But I think that outside of the realm of playing games, this technology is still in the early stages, and how rapidly it can develop to be very useful is still uncertain, it's still not known. It's interesting that this question mentions Google deploying neural net. It's interesting that this question mentions Google building out this machine translation system. Companies in China, in US, and elsewhere are taking leading AI technologies and developing them and deploying them to product very quickly. What not many people know is that a lot of these deployments actually first happen in China. Not all, but quite a few. In the specific example of using neural networks to learn sequences for machine translation, Baidu actually figured out how to build it and deploy it before Google. There are many examples where a new technology is either developed or first shipped to production, first in China. And so I'm very proud of the work that I do, as well as the whole Chinese technology industry is doing. One strange effect that I don't completely understand is one effect that still surprises me is how often something is first deployed in China and then maybe a year later in the US, but people somehow think of the US example even more than the China one. What do you think? Oh, this is so technical.
Yeah.
I mean, this is true, but
you can definitely skip any question that you don't want to answer, or you think that's too tricky or something.
Question 15. It's true that a lot of work. It's true that It's true that sequence-to-sequence models of attention is making a lot of progress of NLP right now. But from a research perspective, there are so many ideas that could have a breakthrough in the next few years and create brand new ways of building much better NLP systems. For example, I'm still seeing a lot of progress in learning word embeddings. I think there's work on cross-modal learning, where you learn computer vision and NLP at the same time that's very exciting, such as image captioning. I see people trying to use 1D convolutional networks on text and getting good results. There is very exciting work on working at either the word or the subword or the character level and taking these different layers of representation and blending them together. I think NLP progress today is so fast and there's so many ideas, it's actually very difficult to predict what will be the winning approach 1 or 2 years from now. Oh, let me add one more. So you just insert this in the middle, right?
Yeah.
You're going to transcribe, right?
Sure.
I think transfer learning and multitask learning, where you learn to do multiple tasks at the same time, is also very exciting. One of the results that I was excited about was when in 2015, Baidu's NLP team showed that with machine translation, if you learn to translate several different pairs of languages at the same time, it does much better than if you translate only one pair of language at the same time. So I think transfer learning will be so I think that'll be. I think that especially for NLP tasks where we don't have that much data, transfer learning and multitask learning will be more and more important in the next couple of years. Probably that covers 16 as well, right? We're going to skip 16.
Right.
I think we covered this with the earlier question, right? Yeah. Okay, cool.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Who's this from also?
One from 机器之心